our next trade destination, the LA Clippers. We don't need to imagine what that would look like since he played there for 6 seasons. We could just use one of the old pictures. Tim Bontemps, with this potential trade, need to get creative, get a third team to make it work. So here is the fake three-team deal. The Clippers would get Chris Paul. The Thunder would get Nicholas Batum and Rodney McGruder from the Hornets. The Hornets get Montrezl Harrell via a sign-in trade, Lou Williams and Patrick Beverley. Amin, what do you think about CP3 going back to LA into that Clippers locker room?
Okay, so the mock trade aside, which draws a very ill reaction for me from what Oklahoma City is getting, obviously this is a perfect fit for the Clippers. Everything that we talked about that they're lacking in terms of a veteran voice, someone who's going to tell people to get their heads out of their you-know-wheres, someone who's going to help that offense that was so stagnant in the playoffs last year. Get more ball movement, more passing, more scoring opportunities for everybody. And then, obviously, the defense and the familiarity that he has with the organization, with the city. Chris Paul is the greatest Clipper of all time, if you look at it, if you take how long he was here and what he accomplished here. So it would be only fitting for him to return to the Clippers and help them get across the hump.
Yeah, I think this is the best possible fit. If you put Chris Paul and the Clippers with Kawhi and Paul George, you're looking at the next super team, I believe. I mean, Chris Paul played at a great all-star level, in some people's eyes, MVP level. And you know what Kawhi and Paul George bring to the table. Absolute best possible fit for him. They need his leadership, and this team would be the favorite if they had Chris Paul.
The only thing, if I can be the negative guy here, all right, is the only thing I see wrong with the fit is all of those guys need the ball in their hands.
Right.
Every one of them are play off the dribble type players. And when one has it, two other guys are standing. Like when we were in Miami, we had Dwayne and LeBron who needed the ball in their hands.
Right.
Chris Bosh was a little different, whereas these three guys are all that way. If T-Lue can get it to work, if this was to happen, it would be exactly what he said, a super team, which means all of those guys would have to sacrifice a little bit. But it could also be something where guys are pissed off at each other and it could get ugly. So it could go either way. I just think adding a super talent like Chris Paul, even though he's older, he showed you that he's still got a lot in the tank, and he would add a lot to that locker room as a leader.
Now, obviously, there were some locker room issues last time Chris Paul was in L.A. Paul, you would know, you had the inside on that more than any of us. But, you know, a lot of the guys would be gone. I mean, this trade would actually move some of the guys, and the locker room issues of this past season, which Chris Paul had nothing to do with, are also something that Ty Lue is going to have to figure out there. So there's a whole lot going on there. I want to move on to the 76ers, who we know will be open to dealing with Daryl Morey and Elton Brand at the helm. Tim provided this potential trade, another three-team deal to make it work here. Sixers get Chris Paul reuniting with Doc Rivers in Philly. The Thunder get Buddy Hield, Zaire Smith, Mike Scott. The Kings get Al Horford and OKC's 2020 first-round pick via Philadelphia. They got so many picks in the Thunder. I don't even know how you could keep track whose pick is from where. I mean, what do you think about the fit with the Sixers?
I think of the playoff teams, this is probably one of the worst fits. I think that Doc Rivers has his work cut out in terms of trying to figure out how to make Embiid and Simmons co-occupy the floor. Obviously, Simmons, when the ball's not in his hands, it's a little bit like what Coach said with the Clippers. He's a guy who needs the ball in his hands. The difference is, at least in the Clippers, Kawhi and Paul George, they can space. Ben Simmons, up to this point of his career, hasn't shown an ability to either space or be productive off ball. Right. So I think that bringing Chris Paul in there is kind of a dangerous situation. The other thing I worry about is Chris Paul's a direct communicator. And I don't know if those guys are okay with having that kind of direct communication levied their way. And then finally, I got a question. Chris Paul and Doc Rivers, that relationship didn't exactly end on roses and kind of sweet-smelling tunes or whatever. So could they reconcile? Is that going to be an issue? So I'm not as high on this fit.
Me neither. I don't want to see Doc and Chris Paul reconcile. They tried it. The marriage lasted so long it didn't work. Divorce. Everybody went their separate ways. There's no need to look back.
Yeah, I don't think this is a good fit at all. And like, think about it. You think Chris Paul wants to be in the middle of these two young guys feuding and having to always try to keep pulling them back in right now? And it's the same. He said it. He took the words right out of my mouth. It's worse than the Clippers from the standpoint of you got two other guys who really need the ball in their hands, but they do not provide spacing for each other. And so I agree totally with Amin, and I don't think this is a good fit.
I agree with that. I will say that having been in the bubble, Chris Paul and Doc Rivers not only had to, but worked together on purpose in the bubble quite a bit, especially after the Milwaukee Bucks situation with their walkout. So I think that situation actually and being in the bubble together actually mended some of the fences if they were a little bit torn and broken from the Clippers experience. That being said, I don't know if they need to go right back to working with each other.
I'm friends with my ex-wife, so there's nothing wrong with that.
But you didn't remarry her, Paul. Rank the teams, as the best trade destinations for Chris Paul. What do you got at the end of all this?
I think number one has got to be the Bucks. I think the reason why is that they're closest to getting over the hump. The Eastern Conference, while it's tough, is not as tough as the Western Conference. And I think the natural fit there is key. Clippers are 2, Sixers, as I said, are number 3. And then I said to producer Steve, can I put hell as number 4? He said, no, I have to put the Knicks. So we'll go with Knicks.
이번에 준비한 영상 시청해주셔서 정말 감사하고 앞으로 더 흥미롭고 유익한 NBA 내용으로 돌아오겠습니다. 영상 재밌게 보셨다면 구독과 좋아요 부탁드리겠습니다. 감사합니다.